just running around, was he, James?
Yeah.
Will you tell me exactly what? Slowly, right?
Just said come here. And then he grabbed his hands and walked up to stand.
How did he come up to John?
How did he come up to John?
James?
No, he was walking down the strand.
Who was it? James?
The baby.
Was he?
I told him to take him back.
You did what?
I told him to take him back.
You told him to take it back?
No, blame.
No, you're not getting all the blame. I'm just asking your son. Trying to find
You always get the blame.
Wait a minute, Bobby. You see, little James is following you up on stage. Right? But other than the picture, John, it appears as if John had hold of his hand.
Yeah, well, why are you questioning me and John as well? I never got the boy. I never killed him.
He said that you took him by the hand and led him out of the strand shop.
You never? He's a liar.
Oh, no, I can't.
Alright, come on.
But the God told us the truth.
God told us the truth and tell me that he never. He was too scared. He was probably too scared.
A short while ago, as is detailed on your custody record out there, you had a conversation with your mum and you then requested that the self come into the room. Is that right? Yeah. And what was it you told us?
I killed James.
Bootle is a town in the metropolitan borough of Sefton, England, outside of Liverpool. On February 12, 1993, it was the setting for one of the most brutal child crimes in history. James Patrick Bulger was a 2-year-old boy from Kirby who was abducted, tortured, and murdered by two 10-year-old boys, Robert Thompson and John Venables. After having skipped school that day, the boys ended up at the New Strand Shopping Center in Bootle looking for a victim. Throughout the day, the boys were seen stealing various items, including sweets, a troll doll, some batteries, and a can of blue paint. One of the boys later revealed that they were planning to find a child to abduct, lead him to the busy road alongside the shopping center, and push him into the path of oncoming traffic. James Bulger was not the first child that the pair tried to abduct. In fact, that child nearly became the victim. CCTV from the New Strand Shopping Center showed Thompson and Venables casually observing children, apparently selecting a target. Inside a TJ Hughes department store, a woman noticed that two boys were trying to get her kids' attention. Moments later, her 3-year-old daughter and 2-year-old son were missing. The mother quickly found her daughter, but there was no sign of her son. Frantically, she asked her daughter where he was. "Gone outside with the boy," she replied. The woman began calling for her son and ran outside, where she found Venables and Thompson beckoning the boy to follow them. When Venables saw the mother, they told the boy to go back to her, and they vanished. That same afternoon, James Bulger went with his mother Denise to the New Strand Shopping Center. While they were inside of a butcher's shop on the lower floor of the center around 3:40, Denise, who had been temporarily distracted, realized that her son had disappeared. Thompson and Venables approached him and took him by the hand, leading him out of the shopping center. The moment was caught on CCTV at 3:42. Thompson and Venables took Bulger on a 2.5-mile walk across Liverpool to the Leeds and Liverpool Canal, where he was dropped on his head and suffered injuries to his face. Bulger had a bump on his forehead and was crying, but most bystanders did nothing to intervene while the boys joked about pushing Bulger into the canal. During the walk across Liverpool, they were reportedly seen by 38 people. 2 people did challenge the boys, but they claimed Bulger was their younger brother or that he was lost and they were taking him to the local police station. Eventually, the boys arrived in the village of Walton, but with the Walton Lane police station across the road, they hesitated and led Bulger up a steep bank to a railway line near the Walton-Anfield railway station, where they began torturing him. One of the boys threw blue paint in the Bulger's left eye. They kicked him, stomped on him, and threw bricks and stones at him. Batteries were placed in Bulger's mouth, and according to police, some batteries may have been inserted into his rectum, although none were found. Finally, the boys dropped a 22-pound iron bar described as a railway fish plate onto Bulger's head. Alan Williams, the case's pathologist, stated that Bulger suffered so many injuries, 42 in total, that none could be isolated as the fatal blow. Thompson and Venables laid Bulger across the railway tracks and weighted his head down with rubble in hopes that a train would hit him and make his death appear to be an accident, and after they left the scene, his body was cut in half by a train. Bulger's severed body was discovered 2 days later on the 14th of February. A forensic pathologist testified that he died before he was struck by the train. Police suspected that there was an SA element to the crime since Bulger's shoes, socks, trousers, and underpants had been removed, and the pathologist's report found that Bulger's foreskin had been forcibly retracted. When Thompson and Venables were questioned about this aspect of the attack by detectives and a child psychiatrist, the pair were reluctant to give details and also denied inserting batteries into Bulger. The police quickly found low-resolution video images of Bulger's abduction from the New Strand shopping center by two unidentified boys. A breakthrough came when a woman, after seeing slightly enhanced images of the two boys on national television, recognized Venables, who she knew had played truant with Thompson that day. She contacted the police, and the boys were arrested. Thompson and Venables were charged on February 20th, 1993 with Bulger's abduction and murder. The fact that the suspects were so young came as a shock to investigating officers headed by Detective Superintendent Albert Kirby of Merseyside Police. Early press reports and police statements had referred to Bulger being seen with two youths, suggesting that the killers were teenagers, with the ages of the boys being difficult to ascertain from the images captured by CCTV. Forensic tests confirmed that both boys had the same blue paint on their clothing as found on Bulger's body. Both had blood on their shoes. The blood on Thompson's shoe was matched to Bulger's through DNA tests. A pattern of bruising on Bulger's right cheek matched the features of the upper part of the shoe worn by Thompson. A paint mark in the toe cap of one of Venables' shoes indicated he must have used some force when he kicked Bulger. Thompson is said to have asked police whether the 2-year-old boy had been taken to the hospital to get him alive again. Venables later described how Bulger seemed to like him, holding his hand and allowing him to pick him up on the journey to the scene of his own murder. Lawrence Lee, who was the solicitor of Venables during the trial, later said that he was one of the most frightening children he had ever seen and compared him to the Pied Piper. After his appearances in court, Venables would strip off his clothes saying, "I can smell James, it's like a baby smell." The prosecution admitted a number of exhibits during the trial, including a box of 27 bricks, a blood-stained stone, Bulger's underpants, and the rusty iron bar described as a railway fish plate. The pathologist spent 33 minutes outlining the injuries sustained by Bulger. Many of those to his legs had been inflicted after he was stripped from the waist down. Brain damage was extensive and included a hemorrhage. They were found guilty on November 24, 1993, making them the youngest convicted murderers in modern British history. They were sentenced to detention until a parole board decision in June 2001 recommended their release on a lifelong licensed age of 18. In 2010, Venables was sent to prison for breaching the terms of his license and was released on parole again in 2013. In November of 2017, Venables was again sent to prison for possessing child abuse images on his computer. The Bulger case has prompted widespread debate on the issue of how to handle young offenders when they are sentenced or released from prison.